Welcome, everybody, to today's episode. I'm your host, Miss Trina, caregiver, advocate, and your companion in truth telling about the realities of this thing that we call the CNA profession. We're going to go deep into a topic today, and that topic actually shapes the daily experience of both caregivers and clients. The fine line between caring for someone and controlling them. Okay? Have you ever felt like your help wasn't actually helpful? Or notice how decisions are being made for someone's safety sometimes chip away at their dignity? Let's explore where boundaries blur and how we can reclaim care as a form of empowerment. Yes, as a form of empowerment. Now, I have a couple of different segments that I want to discuss today, and segment one will be explaining the differences between care and control. Okay, so we're gonna begin by unpacking the core differences between care and control. Okay. Now, care involves support, safety, and attentiveness, but control emerges when choices are removed, often under the guise of doing what's best. You want to hear some examples? Good, because I sure got them. When you lock up the refrigerator to monitor a client's diet instead of just guiding them through conversation on what choices could be healthier, that's control. Now, picking TV shows and not even asking the client what they want to watch, that's control. Okay? Here's the truth worth sitting with, though. When control is mistaken for care, autonomy becomes a casualty. Okay? Now, I done showed you two forms of control when it comes to care. Now, let me show you two forms of care. Okay? Instead of saying, girl, you can't eat that. That ain't even in your diet. Walk with the client to the refrigerator, snack cabinet, or wherever they keep their goodies, and let them know what goes with their diet plan and what does not. Now that's care. Or when they have their downtime, they finish with morning ADLs, finish with breakfast, finish with doing whatever else they wanted to do, and now it's their favorite time of day to watch TV. Okay? Care is when you hand them the remote. Let me get it to you again. Care is when you hand them the remote. Now, with that being said, I know that people take breaks in their own way. But when you're in a client's home and you're expected to care for the client, care means asking questions, asking permission. That's what care is. Control is when you don't ask for permission, when you just do. So, since we in this subject today, I'm going to constantly show you how the lines can get blurred. Now, autonomy, like I said, goes out the window, and we all know what autonomy is. Autonomy is the right to self-govern one's own self. Let me get that to you. The right to self-govern one's own self. So with that being said, the cultural text though, and the family entanglements, that's something else. I mean, it is. It's a whole nother beast within itself. Caregiving doesn't exist in a vacuum. You know what I mean? Our roles are shaped by generational expectations, racial identity, and cultural tradition, if you can believe it, because it is. In everyday situations, one of these three expectations is going to come up. Believe it. So let's just talk about depression, okay? Especially on black and brown women. We have to provide care without complaint. These silent expectations can turn selflessness into self-erasure, and that is true. Because you can throw yourself into your job, you can put yourself into your work 110%, and before you know it, that's all you thinking about. That's all you thinking about on your off days. That's all you thinking about in the middle of the night when you clock out. That's all you thinking about when you trying to get some sleep and you keep hearing car lights go off. Seriously. I mean, these, you can really lose yourself in nursing. You really, really can. I did. And I know I did. I'm talking about I lost myself so bad to where I had a spinal cord injury and just didn't even address it, until it was just too unbearable to take. Okay, so, but a real life story from the field though, okay? I had this client who felt loved but trapped at the same time. Not by malice though. They wasn't trapped by malice, don't get me wrong. But by a system that never asked what they wanted. Because truthfully, when we go into a client's house, I'm not going to say the first day, I'm not going to say the first week, I'm not going to say the second week. But when we get that comfortable with our client to where we are like both on the same page, then, care and control does get blurred. It does get blurred because you didn't put yourself in the position of being a niece, a granddaughter, or just a friend in general, just a friend. But you are a friend with all your marbles. Okay? Yeah. I'm going to say it like that because that's actually the way it is. But it's the way we describe it on the low. So, but when I say that for a system that never asked what they wanted, this is what I mean. I know I'm probably backtracking, but this is what I mean. When we get a set of guidelines that we're supposed to follow when it comes to nursing or in-home care, that's what we strictly follow. I have seen it. That's what we strictly follow. But if you don't have that that extra in you to go above and beyond, that criteria, that job description, I mean we follow it. But we throw a little of our own in there too. Now, here's a question for the listeners to sit with. Have you ever felt your care was being used to control you, or vice versa? Yeah, you can sit with that. Sometimes it's not just the individual behavior, it's the systems that we work within. See, because policies dictate, like I said, strict schedules, agencies enforce compliance over compassion, and tools like medication logs and food restrictions can become instruments of surveillance. And the reason why I say that is, because it does. We have to document whether a client is taking their medicine on time. We have to document whether the client want to take their medicine. We have to document what the client ate for breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, or dinner. It all depends on what our timeline is with them. And that is a form of surveillance because if they don't comply with what their care plan says, then hey, out the home and into the nursing home. And that's the truth. Now, remember Oprah, 87? Yeah. It promised dignity and empowerment, yeah. But in practice, did it shift control or just repackage it? You know what I'm talking about? It actually shifted control. It did all of that good stuff for the CNA profession, even introduced the CNA profession. But they never discussed wages. That's something. Now, let's look at how regulations affect real lives and what we can do to humanize compliance. Okay? In segment 4 I expanded segment 4 and segment 5 to give you a clear understanding of what it is I'm actually trying to say. Okay? So, segment 4 and segment 5, or I researched the mug out of this, but I want to bring it to you and present it to you as plain and explainable as I can. Okay? Now, client autonomy and caregivers ethics. Okay, in this part of the episode, we move from theory to practice. Okay? How do we actually prioritize autonomy while still protecting those we care for? Okay? Start by painting the dilemma first. Okay? More caregivers feel torn between being supportive and being responsible. You're asked to prevent harm, but what happens when that obligation overrides a client's ability to choose? Here are some ethical tools and principles to work with. Okay? Collaborative care plans, first and foremost. That's what every client should have in place before you even walk through the door for your first day of work. A care plan. Instead of a checklist made by professionals or family members, ask what matters to the client. Like, what brings them joy, peace, or routine. Okay? Build the care plan around their values, not just their needs. Okay? I say that to say this. You can write a list of likes and you can write a list of dislikes. And you can work from there on a daily basis. Because it gives the client, autonomy and dignity. Now, the emotional go bag kit. Now, see, this concept is mine, okay? Because I made this up my own self. But I wanted to include it in this presentation too, okay? This concept encourages emotional preparedness. It's not just about having snacks or a blanket. You know what I mean? It includes, stuff that the client won't like. Stuff that the client is used to. Let me say it like that. It's what the client is used to. Okay? Like sensory items. You know what I mean? Don't really have to be a blanket. You know what I'm saying? Something that soothes, soft textures or common scents. I find that lavender is a very common scent to use. I love it myself. And people use it in aromatherapy a lot. Lavender is very, very common and relaxing. Or you can ask them what type of music they like, or playlists or whatever that they love. Because music is a form of therapy. It is. And you can play music and you just never know how or where a person's mind will go. Music can bring out a wonderful memory or it can bring out a bad memory. But just know that it is a tool that can be used for common, like a journaling space or voice notes for self-expression. Now, this could be used for you, the caregiver. Because if you have a client that's battling dementia, that wouldn't be a good choice for them. But if you have a client that's not battling dementia, that's basically still in their right mind, and can still write, or if they can't write, you can let them record a voice, record their voice on a little note or something. It's a lot of things that we caregivers can do for our clients to make their day go smoother, or to let them know that they are really loved outside of the normal family members, And affirmations that remind them of their own power. Like, yeah, I'm Miss Bernice. I'm still hanging in there. I'm still good enough. I can still count. I can still read. I can still say yes, and I can still say no. They don't have to be no big affirmations like taking over the world or nothing. It's just those little small affirmations that let them know that they are still human and they still matter. Okay? So, because when clients feel emotionally equipped, they're more likely to communicate needs instead of, internalizing frustration. Because if they feel like they heard, if they feel like if they feel like they're being heard, then they will participate more in their care on a happier note instead of being frustrated because there's somebody in their house they got to help them take care of themselves now. Yeah, a lot of people don't like that. So, but I'm gonna give you another tool too. Okay, it's called consent-based caregiving. Like I said, you in their house, ask permission, shoot, ask questions. Now, before assisting with any task, though, you can ask. Okay? Would you like for me to help you with that? Or is this the way you prefer it to be done? Or do you want this together? Or, you know what? We can do this together, or you just lead and I just follow you. Even small choices like choosing clothing or deciding when to bathe. You know what I'm saying? That could, yeah. Just simple stuff. That can rebuild dignity also. It can, because they feel like their dignity is lost because somebody else have to come into their home and take care of their everyday needs for them. That's a great way to put, to start rebuilding their dignity. While not just providing a service, we're protecting someone's humanity. Okay? True enough, we're providing a service, but we're protecting humanity also. Now, this is what I'm talking about right here. Healing from power struggles. See, I had actually 2 of these presentations to make today. One was care versus control. And the other one was, I think, I'm not going to say I think, I know. The other one was called the hidden power struggle. Between caregiver and family members. Now, that should be next, but this garage beginning to get a little bit too hot out here, baby. We need to hurry up and get through with this. Yeah, like I said, healing from the power struggles. Now, see, this is where this episode gets personal and restorative. Okay? First, you're going to start by acknowledging the quiet battle. Some caregivers feel used, unseen, or unappreciated, while some clients feel infantilized, restricted, or unheard, and often both sides carry unspoken grief. Discuss common signs of power imbalance, like resistance from clients that looks like anger, but it's actually fear. And we have a such thing as passive caregiving, where we doing tasks but emotionally checking out from the tasks. You know what I mean? The conflict between family members, agencies, and caregivers, each pulling in different directions. Okay? But there are some tools to repair this. Okay? Power check conversations. You know what I'm saying? Schedule intentional moments to ask. Just an intended moment to ask. Is there anything I do that feels controlling to you? You can ask your client these questions. Now, if they, struggling with dementia or whatever, there are ways to ask these questions where they can understand. Or if you have a client that's totally in their right mind, they just need medical help. Those are the ones that can actually answer you and ask you. Okay? And you would want to ask, what decisions would you like to make more independently? Like, you can ask your client, like, okay, what you want me to step out of so that you can feel comfortable with doing. You can do that. It's not like you just totally going hands off. You just asking the client, what way can you work that'll be better to suit them. Okay? Because you can ask them, so how do you want me to care for you? These check-ins disarm resentment and rebuild trust. Okay? Each one of those 3 check-ins, they actually do that because you can ask. You can really ask. You don't have to go into a client's house with care plan on your mind, do. Like rapid fire. That's not going to work. It's not going to work with the client, and it's not going to work with you because the client is going to get frustrated and you will too. Because you're not listening. Now, the audio reflection or journaling, if that person can write. If that person can't write, then that's where you come in, you caregiver, you. With the audio reflection, encourage. It encourages caregivers and clients to voice what feels good and what doesn't. And it captures moments of joy too. Like both of us laughing at a joke. I respected her decision to put on one yellow sock and one red sock. Or just one small victory, like she don't want to take her meds right now. She could take them an hour later, which is true. As long as they take them within that allotted time now. Now, don't be too passive now. I mean, small victories are what help reshape the narrative from conflict to collaboration. Small things, it don't have to be nothing big. Bringing in advocates or therapists. See, there's no shame in asking for help. A neutral voice can illuminate blind spots and help everyone feel heard. Okay? Ain't no shame in asking for help. Client, caregiver, family member, nobody. There ain't no shame in asking for help. Either help or a clear understanding about what your role is in the client's home. Now, healing isn't just a destination. It's a process of making room for choice, even when it's inconvenient. Honor the slow steps. Celebrate small wins. And remind yourself, control may seem efficient, but care that listens is always more powerful. Yeah. Control may seem efficient, but care that listens is always more powerful. And it is. We have to listen to these people when we go into their homes. Even though their care plan say one thing, that's just by design. Because they have boom, 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 boom. And when we as caregivers, compassionate caregivers, see the 4 booms, we always make it a little boom less within those 4. You see what I mean? It's like we have to actually do or try what works best for the client, not just for us, the caregiver. Because we're not in that space. We're here to help. They're the ones that has to live the rest of this life out with their new normal. We have to be acclimated to it. We have to fit into what they got going on. It's not them fitting into us. It's us fitting into them. Now, with that being said, I do have another podcast, but I don't think I'm going to do that today because like I said, this garage getting hot, man. Time to get up out of here. Now, thank you again for joining me today for this segment of Care versus Control. And like I said, I am your host, Miss Trina. And before I get out of here, I just want y'all to know that, thank you for watching my videos or being interested in nursing care as a whole, because like I said with most of my videos, there's a major shortage in Texas for CNAs in the nursing homes, never in the hospitals, always in the nursing homes. So if you a first year CNA or you just not starting out or you want to see if this profession is for you, by all means, start small. Go to the nursing homes where you would really matter, And if that's not the plan for you, if you want to go to a hospital or whatever, go ahead. But just give the best care that you can daily. And with that being said, y'all continue to love each other, continue to take care of each other, and I will see you in the next one.